Let's go. Hello everyone and welcome to my brand new making podcast. This is my first time on YouTube ever. I'm Stashing Fiber, and if you spend some time here, then maybe that name will make more sense to you. I'm a knitter, sewer, and occasional quilter coming to you from Gothenburg, Sweden. I'm a single mom who has far too little time to make anything or spend any time in my hobbies. So starting up a YouTube channel might not be the wisest decision, but I don't care. I want to talk more about my hobbies and about my stuff, my hobby-related stuff. Is it a hoard? Perhaps, we'll see. In this video, I'm going to follow the standard maker podcast format with introduction and finished objects and works in progress and so on. I do both sew and knit, so I'm gonna just mash them both up into this video. I'm gonna try to put in timestamps. If you are, let's say, a knitter who absolutely hates sewing, then you're probably gonna be able to click past the sewing if that's what you want. So first off, maybe I'm gonna talk about what I'm wearing. I put on a quite old me-made or a knit. I made this several years ago. It's Genser WIP mønster by Sandnes Garn. It's knit up in, I think I held like 3 strands of different mohairs or mohair-ish yarns. Yeah, so I dug this one out. It felt like a pink day. I'm pleasantly surprised of how nice it felt to put it on. So that's what I'm wearing today. I'm also wearing Agnes PJs, pajama pants, but you can't see that, so you don't need to know that I'm wearing pajamas. Yeah, I've been knitting and sewing for not all my life, but on and off through my life. I think my mom taught me how to knit when I was like 7 or 8 years old. I just knit a few rounds and then gave up, but I knew the basics. And then I sewed a bit when I was around 19, but mostly out of like old decorating fabrics and not using a pattern. I wasn't very clear with what I was doing, but I had fun and it was like good for me. I know I started knitting seriously around 2015. I know I wanted to make my entire family mittens for like color work mittens for Christmas. Completely misjudged the time it would take, so I gave everyone one mitten for Christmas, and it was one mitten knit in like flimsy alpaca yarn. It wasn't the huge success that I had wished it would be. I started making a little more seriously around 2020. No surprise, a lot of people started crafting more then. I can't really think of anything else that's important right now, and I guess you're going to get to know me better if you hang around, if I hang around. So I guess we'll move straight into finished objects. I haven't had super much time to make in the last month, but I have 2 finished objects, and they're not very glamorous, but I don't care. Flattering. I made a new pair of sweatpants, the Closet Core Plateau Joggers. Basic sweatpants, they're not very oversized, so they're a little, not a slim leg, but just a little more like regular in the leg, finished with a cuff and with a waistband. It can seem like this is a boring finish, and in a way it is. It's quite basic, but oh my god, I was so relieved when I made this. My wardrobe is, I don't have a lot of things to wear. Like, I have a hard time making it to my next like laundry appointment, or the next time I have like the laundry room booked. So I'm always a little stressed when we have appointments or errands or anything specific. I don't know what to wear. I have like 2 pairs of pants or 3 that I can rotate between. I was so relieved to have another pair of pants to keep in rotation. These I made in a Bordeaux sweatpant fabric from Self-Made. The pattern itself is quite straightforward. It's nothing advanced, but the making of was a bit of a struggle for me. I was very, like, I pre-cut them out. I had a few days where I just cut several patterns out. Obviously, I stressed through it because when I went to sew them, I hadn't cut, like, I didn't cut the leg cuffs, I didn't cut the back pockets, so I had to like scramble a little bit. I actually dug through my scrap pile, my scrap bag, and I found some pieces that fit the pockets, and that was great. And then I realized I didn't have the leg cuffs, and then I didn't have enough scraps of the same fabric to go along to make them. I had actually made a skirt in like a similar color, so I took that fabric and just made the leg cuffs. So they're not really matching, but it's sweatpants. They don't have to match. It's fine. So I'm very, very happy with these. I'm so happy. I'm gonna make another pair, and I'm gonna make another set. They're gonna be very green, but it's gonna be a while before I can make that because I have lots of things in my queue. The other finished product is the Hanna sweater by Bara Studio. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that, but it's a Swedish word, so I'm going to pronounce it in Swedish. I'm sorry if I get it wrong, but it's Bara Studios Hanna sweater. I've made this before in a size medium, but now I sized up to the size large, and I'm very happy I did. It's like a perfect sweatshirt. Drop shoulder, oversized, but not crazy oversized. This is made in the same fabric, the same sweatshirt fabric from Selfmade as the pants. I ordered like the shirt fabric online, and I didn't order ribbing because I can use the fabric. No, I couldn't. It was not it's not a stretchy sweatshirt, so I had to go to the physical store here in Gothenburg, and I didn't bring the actual fabric with me. And they had many different sweatshirt fabrics in Bordeaux, so I wasn't sure which one I was trying to match. But the attendant was like, well, this one should be the one. And maybe it was the one that was supposed to be matching. I don't know. But as you can see from the video, I hope, not quite the same color. But again, it's a sweatshirt. Yeah, finished is better than perfect. It doesn't matter. But those were actually all the finished objects I have for this month. On to works in progress. Slightly more, is it more exciting? Let's say, I feel like that's unfair to my sweatshirt set. But yeah, this is more exciting. I'm gonna grab my bowl. Ooh, this is my most active work in progress. I hope you can see it, or maybe we should do this. This is the, can't you tell? This is the Winters Pullover by Ozetta. It's currently in a bowl because I'm knitting the sleeves. I'm gonna see if I can put in some footage of why it's in a bowl. It's the knit your sleeve without all the frustration trick. So bring out a like non-friction bowl and use that for your sleeve knitting. It's so much easier. So, like I said, Winters Pullover by Ozetta. It's a oversized drop shoulder sweater. It's knit top down. It's fairly basic in its construction. I would say it's suitable for beginners. And it's knit at a gauge of 15 stitches per 4 inches or 10 centimeters. I notoriously never follow the yarn recommendations. So of course I didn't do that this time either. I'm knitting this in Sandnes Garn Atlas. It's a fairly new yarn from them. Quite excited to try this out. I like it very much so far. It's, it's a little rustic feeling, but mostly cozy. So it's got it's 70% lamb's wool and 30% merino. So I think the merino like balances out this potential scratchiness from the lamb's wool. I'm pairing this with this yarn. Let's see if my camera can do this. I'm not sure how to pronounce this, but I'm going to say Gepard cashmere lace. It's a very thin, like cashmere yarn. This January I got. Yeah, I really wanted to knit a yellow sweater. I'm not going to go into it, but it was like an odyssey to get the right yarn, to decide on yarn, to get to buy it. It was sold out, and I was very annoyed. I ended up with like yarn for 2 different yellow sweaters. That happens sometimes. But I'm very happy with this. I feel very trendy with an oversized sweater in, a very butter yellow color. So yay me, I'm so excited to keep knitting on this. I already know that I'm quite off gauge with this pattern. I actually chose a different size than the one recommended for my bust circumference because I knew from my swatch that I was off. And now I'm like a little worried that I've changed my gauge while I've been knitting, so I'm not at all sure how, if it's going to be a tent or if it's going to be smaller than I want it to be. I guess we'll just have to find out. I am going off pattern a little bit. I'm knitting it longer because I want slightly more of that very oversized Baba-esque look. So I think I added like 10 centimeters in the body so far. Nothing's finished. I've got balls of yarn going on the collar and on the both arms and the body at the same time. So it's all very much a mystery, the fit, but we'll see. Hopefully we'll see in the next video. Another work in progress I'm working on, or well, I'm not currently working on it. I was working on this one, but then I got the yarn for the Winters Pullover and I just had to start that one. So this one is on ice. Keep all my things in plastic bags. I've had a moth situation, don't ask. I'm gonna see if I can hold it up. This is like half a Scarlet Cardigan from Petitknit. I've gotten quite far. I've done the body and one sleeve, and I'm working on the other sleeve. The Scarlet Cardigan is a pattern from Petitknit. It's an oversized raglan cardigan with a double knit button band. I haven't gotten to the button band, and I've never double knit a button band before, so we'll see how that will work out. This is supposed to have like 9 to 10 inches of positive ease. That's 25 centimeters. And it's supposed to be knit at 23 stitches per 4 inches or 10 centimeters. I'm knitting this again, not in the recommended yarn, but this is Ficolana Arvetta. I can say that in English as well, held together with a Ficolana Tilia. So it's, yeah, and it's, I think the colors are called like coffee and chocolate, which feels very, very cozy and very dark brown. So the sweater or the cardigan has these details that are a little bit lost with the mohair. Maybe if I did this again, I wouldn't do it with a mohair. I think the pattern itself does not recommend mohair, but I had matching mohair and I wanted to use it. So I'm going to hold it up and see if you can see. There's this ridge on the back. It's made with, well, it's very easy, but I don't know, I think it's quite stylish. And it's matched by like an I-cord edge on the shoulder and the same ridge like on the underarm. So I'm quite excited to get this done. I really need more cardigans in my wardrobe. I run fairly warm, so as much as I love to knit sweaters, it's not very practical for me. There are only a few weeks per year where I can comfortably wear a sweater, like a knit wool sweater, and the rest of the time I'm just like sweaty. So I'm aiming to make more cardigans to just get to use my me-mades, but also not die from, overheating. So I'm also making some quilty projects. I am working on a scrappy baby quilt for a friend. This is going to be a gift, but I would be so surprised if she watches this or accidentally sees it. So I'm going to show you what I can show you anyway. It's very much based on a quilt I saw on Instagram. So it's like inspired or heavily inspired by someone's pattern that they made. But I didn't buy the pattern because I can't really afford to buy extra patterns right now. I could figure it out on my own. So I adjusted the pattern or the sizes of the pieces to the sizes of squares that I had in my scrap stash, and the size I wanted the quilt to be. So I've done all the work myself, but I got the idea from this designer, and I'm not sure what the nice thing to do is. Should I credit the designer and say, hey, I made this as a copy of your work that I didn't want to pay for, which feels slightly rude. But then again, a person can't own a 9 patch. Or is it nice, if I'm gonna be so heavily inspired by someone's work, is it if I can't pay and buy the pattern, is it better that I say, hey, I saw this and needed to make this. You can go check this out if you want to make something like it. I'm not sure which is better, I just don't want to piss anyone off. But I'm going to show you anyway. So this is what it looks like right now. It's I haven't sewn this, so it's pinned to a lot of this whole long strip, but it's based around scrappy 9 patches. Here's another one. And these are all squares that I had in my quilting scraps. And it's going to be a baby quilt for a friend who is having her baby quite soon. So I need to get on that, but I also need to get on a lot of other things. So that's time is my problem. So I'm quite excited about that. I like that I could use my scraps because I have a lot of them. And another quilting work in progress. This is not very actively worked on. It's not super exciting, but it's more of a leaders and enders project. I'm not sure if that's a term everyone is familiar with, but it's, when you sew something and you've sewn the whole piece, or you've sewn your seam, and then instead of pulling it away and cutting the thread from the machine, I guess you then lose a bit of thread, and that loose end of thread risks going into the machine and making this mess that you don't want when you start your next seam. So when you, instead of just pulling it out, when you sew off the piece that you're working on, whatever that is, you have this small other thing that you just sew on. I know my mom used to sew on just a random piece of fabric, but instead of random piece of fabric, you can have a project. So we sew together 2 little pieces. So you have this project that just a little stack next to your sewing machine, and you can just put that in. No, it's like that little project that you're working on in between. So you don't actively work on this. It just sort of magically happens as you're working on other things. Again, I had a lot of scraps. So these are my scrappy, I think these are 3.5-inch squares that I've sewn together. I've kept a lot of different sizes squares for my quilting fabric. And I find I don't reach for the 3.5s. I just don't like them very much, or I don't use them together with other scraps so much. So I just kind of wanted to start getting rid of them. So I'm sewing them together, and I think I'm going to use them for making a quilted cover for something. I don't need, but I would want to have covers for my sewing machines plural, just so they don't like amass that much dust. There's always a lot of dust in my sewing room. So I would like this little like cover that you can put on top of them. I would also like, I have these like I bought these foam pillows for my son to play with. And you know, he's taken some bites out of them, and I think they would do well with a cover. So we'll see what this becomes. And it might not become anything anytime soon, but I hope just little by little it will get there. The fabrics are all like from the same collection. I think her name is Jen Kingwell, and this is something about beach. I think it's called something beach. I'm not sure. Please tell me in the comments if you recognize this. I bought this whole pack of like different colors or different fabrics from the same collection, and I never used all of them, so I'm using the scraps. As I said, I'm following this standard like making or knitting podcast format, but I've added this one section myself. Mending and adjustments. It's not the funnest. It's not what I want to spend my time on. I don't do a lot of it. But like when I actually get to do some of it, I feel so proud. I'm so proud that I did the boring thing. So I'm gonna show it. Like, look at me, I did some mending. It's not very exciting, but it's gonna be quite fast, so hang on. Toddler sweatpants. I think all my son's clothes are like hand-me-downs or secondhand. I don't want to buy new kids' clothes. No one needs to buy new kids' clothes. That might be a hot take. If it is, please argue about it in the comments. Just, it'll be great for my views. But these are either hand-me-downs or secondhand, and they were worn on like the butt seam, the crotch seam in the back. And they're this burgundy color, and I just, I took these out of the storage box for like the next size up, and I just happened to have the burgundy color. Have I been saying Bordeaux so far? At least, well, now I remember it's called burgundy. Yeah, so I just happened to have the burgundy in my cover stitch machine. So I just put like a scrap of the sweatshirt fabric from the pants and the sweater, and I put that on like in the back. Just this long strip, and I sewed it over with my cover stitch machine, and now they're gonna hold up for a while longer. And I'm very proud of myself for doing that and not just letting them, break beyond the point of repair. The second thing I've mended, it's like it must be the most boring mend ever, but I know for a fact that I'm not the only one who has this problem. Again, my son's winter overalls, I think these might be like hand-me-downs from his cousins that might have them as hand-me-downs from their cousin. So he might be like the fourth child wearing this, which makes me proud. Like, yay, look at us, the environmentalists. Or maybe we're just cheap. But I'm very glad that we're not spending money buying unnecessary things when this cute and practical thing is already here. But the elastic bands that go under the winter boot of the child, they were worn, and one day they just broke. And I don't want to stop wearing this, and I don't want to go buy it was February. I don't want to buy a new set of winter overalls in February for a size that's almost my son's almost grown out of, just because the elastics the elastic broke. So I just sewed a new elastic. Once again, the sewing gods are on my side. This doesn't matter. But when I sat down at my sewing machine, I just realized, oh, I already have matching thread in here. Like, I didn't even have to change the thread. I just took normal, what is this, about an inch, 2.5 centimeters wide. I doubled the elastic and just zigzagged it together and just sewed it on. And it works fine. Like, yay. Yay me. On to acquisitions. I have none, which I'm very happy about. Is that true? Let's see, is this true? Yes, it is. I got the yarn for the Winters Pullover in January, so that was true. I hope that for this little segment, I'm not going to have much to say for most of the time, because God knows I don't need more yarn or fabric or patterns. So, goals and plans. I so want to finish my Winters Pullover. I want to finish it. I also want to start and finish another yellow sweater for my son. I want us both to be in like butter yellow, sunshine yellow, chicken yellow sweaters by Easter. That would be awesome. We'll see. I'm not sure if it's feasible because the coming month is very busy. But I hope, like, for this next month, I hope for the sweaters, but I wouldn't stake my life on it. Yeah, so I guess we'll see. And I think that's all I had for today. Very excited to have filmed my first making podcast. I hope it's going to be many more. If you like to hear people talking about fiber making things, I think we could have a thing. I can talk a lot. Feel free to, like and subscribe if you want to see more of this. You can check out my Instagram at stashing.fiber. I'm going to put a little link at the outro. Not link, but I'm going to put it in writing in the outro. Yeah. Bye.